This is an FDD, also known as a franchise disclosure document, and it contains all the information that you need to know about the franchise and the franchisor. And what I'm going to do here is break down 23 items in the FDD, and which of those 23 I believe are the most important. And so with that, let's get right into it. So the brand that we're looking at here today is Anytime Fitness. It is an international and domestic franchise, gym franchise, 24/7. Like I said, these franchise disclosure documents, they're public records. So anyone can look at them. I can look at them. You can look at them, and you can really discuss what is in here, right? If you want more information about the franchise, stuff that's not listed on here, you have to contact the franchise yourself and ask those questions, right? So here we go. So we're gonna go down to the table of contents. This is all just intro stuff, nothing really important here, blah, 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 blah. But table of contents, here we go. 23 items in here. That's what we want to look at. So it's really only 70 pages if you think about it. It's actually not too bad compared to the 495. But if you want to really in-depth, like to explore deeper on here, there are exhibits here that you can go in and like find more information about, right? But these are the 23 items. And then out of these items, there's about really 5 that I think are super important. So let's go through all 23 and I'll tell you which 5 are super important after. So we're going to scroll down to item 1. Honestly, we're going to command F at item 1. Item 1. Okay. So the franchisor, any parent, predecessors, or affiliates. So basically, this is simply telling you any background info on the franchisor, who runs them, who owns them, any prior companies, related entities, is private equity involved, right? So it's going to tell you the franchisor, their Delaware company, franchise, right? Parent company, right? So Purpose Brands is now their parent company. Anytime Fitness obviously is one of the brands under the umbrella. Affiliates, right? You can look at this if you want. I don't think it's too important. 2 is business experience. So these are like people that are running the business, right? So the franchisor's key executives and directors over the past 5 years. So under business experience here, we got the current CEO, Tom Levington. We got a board member and founder, Charles Runyon. We got another founder, Dave Mortensen. Brand president, financial, CFO, right? So that's going to tell you basically like who is running the company, who are the executives like at this moment, right? So item 3, litigation here. These are any lawsuits that are either in the past or pending. And so I think this is important because if it's franchisor suing franchisee, a lot of times that's okay. Typically, like I wouldn't be too worried about it because that could be a franchisee that started doing their own stuff, left the playbook, right? Started maybe misusing their name, right? Or taking in other brands or representing Anytime in a bad light. Now, if it is franchisee suing franchisor, that can be a problem, right? And so you kind of looking at them right here a little bit. And like I said, you can read into these here. Like this one is the franchisor brought a lawsuit against 2 franchisees, right? So that could be something like that. That could be, like I said, maybe they went outside of the lanes of the franchise, right? So this is for injunction and damages for terminating the franchise agreement without cause, right? And then, like I said, this stuff that you can ask the franchisor. So when you are in a meeting with the franchisor, right, and you're with the sales rep or the representative, you can ask them, walk me through your litigation. Tell me what happened here. Like, why did the parent company get sued by a franchisee? If you read more, it says the court dismissed the case, and that obviously they appealed it, and that Anytime Fitness also appealed, okay, to it. So that's still pending. And then this one here is about, let's see, like what you can do here with these is look at it from, if you want to go in more in depth in the litigation, like this is a huge company. There's like 4,000 franchises, I believe. Like there's going to be some lawsuits, right? The best is to really just ask the franchisor what happened, be transparent. I hope they're transparent with you. Because at the end of the day, if there's only, like I said, 5 lawsuits on the whole company of 4,000, like I don't think that's that big of a deal, right? As long as the franchisor is very transparent in what happened, right? I think that's important. So 4, bankruptcy. This is a big one. Any bankruptcy claims, is the company that you're working for, the franchisor, any key level people going bankrupt, right? Because you don't want to join a brand that's going bankrupt. It's probably not good for you. So this one right here says that the CEO, the brand he was the former brand that he worked for. So when he left in 2020, right? He was there for about 6 years. 4 months later, they filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy, right? So that's something to ask, right? Like what happened there? But like I said, that's a different company, right? Different financials, completely different system, right? I don't even know if that's a franchise, whatever that is. It's probably not. But the point is if there's bankruptcy history, you should ask about it. That's very important to know, right? Very important. Number 5 here is initial fees. These are all fees paid up front to the franchisor before you open your business, right? So right here, you got basically franchise fee, simple enough, right? 1 territory, if you buy 2 territories, 3, 4, 5 each, right? So this would be, you open 5, you just take this number times by 5. If you're an existing franchisee, veteran, existing franchisee, Club Purple, Platinum. Like I said, you can look more into detail here, like what defines Club Platinum, what defines Club Purple, right? I'm assuming it means that your studios perform very well, you already open franchisee, right? And you can look more into this, right? So like they offer, so you can like get area development agreements to develop multiple centers, but initial fees simply is put as what money are you putting in before you open, right? Then you scroll down to item 6, Other fees here. So other fees are essentially ongoing fees that after you open, you continually have to pay. So they got their monthly fee, royalties, advertising fee, grand opening fee, right? So this is like marketing and money that you spend when you grand open to get your studio off the ground successfully, club off the ground successfully. Technology fee, right, per month, right? And then pre-transfer renewal fee, right? So this you'll be charged for an inspection of your technology system. Perfect. So if they have to basically audit your system. Coaching fees. These are all ongoing. You got coaching registration fees, all this stuff. Like these are all ongoing fees that you have if you want to hire coaches, you want to register them for our program, right? And if you want to do like more on-site training, that's what it's going to cost here, right? So yeah, just like I said, standard fees, no-show fees, blah, 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 blah. You scroll all the way through. Like I said, these are all fees that you can be charged after you open if you want to do this stuff. These are all not mandatory, right? So if you do like webinars or attorneys or I don't know, club enhancement program. So to remodel your studio, right? So it depends. You're a franchisee. If you want to do it, you do it. If you don't, you don't. That's a question for the franchisor, right? So it's great there. All right, let's go to item 7. Item 7, your estimated initial investment. So these are typically the costs. This is the low amount to open a studio. This is the high amount to open a studio. And so you have the initial franchise fee, traveling, high and low, low, high, low, high, low, high, low, high. And so some people, one person reported they opened a studio at $905,482. The cheapest person opened a studio at $539 and $329. And like I said, item 7 shows the cost to build something today, right? So they think that the low end would be here, the high end would be here, okay? The estimated initial investment for a startup franchise, right? So this table relates to the estimated initial investment based off current trends, market, what they think with the economy, right? What it would cost to build out a studio today. Very simple. So you go down to item 8. Okay, item 8, nothing too crazy here. I don't think it's anything. Item 8 is restrictions on sources of products and services. This is basically whether you as a franchisee must buy supplies, equipment, inventory from approved vendors, or you can do it, outsource it yourself, right? So that's item 8. You can see that. Let's go to item 9 here. Item 9 basically is franchisee obligations. So what you as a franchisee is obligated to do and where it is located in the FDD. So you can kind of look at this and be like, oh, I just got to go. If I want to go to site selection, acquisition, lease, I got to go here, and you got to scroll back up. And if I want to look at warranty and customer service requirements, right? Like what I would do is I'd copy this and I'd Command F it and I'd paste it, right? And then I'd find it. So you get like section 8, which is going to be, there you go. So 8. Right, so that was right there. I missed it. But that's exactly what I do, is I just Command F stuff because it's a huge document. But this essentially is, like I said, it tells you what you got to do and where you can find it. Item 10 is financing, and that is if the franchisor offers financing. This is basically if the franchisor offers financing or arranges financing and so on what terms, right? So you can read through that as well if you want. I really don't look at it too much because I use a lot of third-party vendors and stuff like that for financing. But like I said, can't hurt to know. 11. So, franchisor's assistance, advertising, computer systems, and training. This is basically what support the franchisor provides before, during, and after opening, right? So that goes over everything here. So item 11, it knows exactly what you're going to get before you open, what kind of train support and onboarding systems during your opening and then after your opening. Very simple, right? It's wonderful. Training hours, like they got a training program. How cool, right? You can read all that stuff. Item 12 is territory, and that's just how territory is defined. So you can see like, well, if I buy a franchise, how big's my territory? That's basically the question that you're being answered here. And if you scroll down, eventually you can find it. So like right here, they got it. No larger than 3 miles, and your protected territory will include a population of no more than 30,000 people, right? So that's it. It's either 3 miles, no larger than 3 miles, and no more than 30,000 people. One thing to note in here is that I believe, like I said, I'd have to clarify, but I skimmed over it, is that, and I'd ask the franchisor this, very simply, is that I have my circle. My studio's in the middle of the circle, right? So this is my studio, Domino, and everything around it, 30,000 people, 3 miles, right, is my circle. There's another studio right here that's right about, let's just call it 2.5 miles away, right? So this circle and this circle are going to interconnect like a Venn diagram, okay? And what's important to know here is that you can do that. They can do that as a franchisor, but what can happen is this studio cannot enter the circle of the other studio or gym, right? But the circles can intertwine like a Venn diagram. Just my studio or gym cannot enter in their circle, right? So you can have like a Venn diagram where you're kind of like intertwining each other, so you're both going after that same neighborhood a little bit. 13 here is trademarks. So what trademarks are you being licensed to, right? How can you use them? And also, who's responsible for if the brand has to rebrand, right? Who's going to pay for that? And if you go down this, you'll see, like I read through it a little bit. Say Anytime Fitness, for example, doesn't own their trademark and they have to rebrand, okay? Or they rebrand just because they want to. It says that you are, as a franchisee, are responsible to pay for that rebranding, right? So that's super important to know. Ask a franchisor, right? Like, what is that looking like? Like, how's your trademarks? Do you have established trademarks? Are you looking to rebrand in the next 5 to 10 years? And if they say no, you're good to go. If they say yes, well, who's covering that? If they say you are, as a franchisee, you'd be like, whoa, 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 maybe you can negotiate something. I don't know. I'm just throwing some ideas out there, right? That's a good question to ask. 14, simple enough, is just any patents, copyrights, or proprietary information about the franchisor. This is basically any information or private information that you will use and how you can use it and the rules around them. So that's essentially what I'd look at. It's nothing too crazy. I don't look at it. So like I said, you follow the playbook, you win. It's simple. Item 15 here is the obligation to participate in the actual operation of the franchise business. This means, do you have to be an owner? Can I be semi-absentee? Or can I just be an investor, right? This lays down what they want out of you, right? What you're required to do. And so here, like I said, they have 3 business models. If you redo it quickly, they have an owner-operator model, they have a semi-absentee owner, and they also have an investor model, right? But it also means if you do this, you have to be properly trained, right? So if you read through this, that person also signed a confidentiality agreement. Then it says right here, if you are not on premise, if you're like an investor, right? If you're hands off, you must designate a principal operator to serve as the premise supervisor, right? So, but this person has to complete their training, right? So if you are an investor and you hire a manager, they still have to do your training, right? Doesn't mean you might not have to, and that's a good clarifying question. If I'm just an investor, do I have to do the training, or is it just my manager that I'm hiring, right? Good question to ask. So you know what you're paying, right? Great question. 16. Restrictions on what the franchisee may sell. So very simply, what can you offer? What products, services can you sell or offer people, right? Make sure you don't go out of their system. It's pretty straightforward there. Like what's off loud? Like in a gym right here, right? Like maybe you want to sell, like I'm drinking Celsius, right? Like I'm drinking a Celsius here. Maybe you want to sell Celsius, but they have a partnership with like Rain Energy, right? And you have to sell Rain Energy. You can't sell Celsius and you sell it. Maybe that's not allowed, right? So question, you can look into that if you want, but it's not a big deal. I don't worry about that. I don't worry about 16 at all. 17, renewal, transfer, termination, and dispute resolutions. So basically this means if, like I said, this is your relationship with the franchisor. Super important here is the rules around extending your agreement, terminating your agreement, or transferring your agreement. If you have any questions on that, you can look into here. But for me, it's not a big part of the FDD or like something that makes or breaks me want to buy a franchise at all, because I'm in it, like I said, to make money and become a business owner. I should not be buying a franchise and already thinking my exit strategy. It's not part of the game. I think of opening first, and then maybe a year or 2 down the road, we can think about exiting, but you should not buy a franchise if you're thinking about exiting already. It's not the same framework. You wait a couple years before you think doing that. All right, 18, public figures. So this is basically anyone that they have, celebrities, famous people, anyone like that endorses the business, and they got nobody. Okay. This one, item 19, super important. This is not required on all FDDs. Not every brand has this, right? But this is financial performance representations. And so I always say brands that don't have it either are brand new brands that don't have any data, right? Or they just like don't want to put in there because they're not very good. Like the brands don't perform, right? And so there's a lot of reasons why they might not have it in here. I'd ask the franchisor. I think it's a red flag if they don't have an item 19, unless they're a brand new brand, right? And you're willing to take that risk. But if they're an established brand with no item 19, dig deeper into that. So if you scroll down here, they got 3 sections. We'll go quick over this though, because it's just, like I said, I believe this brand's well established and I know they have a good item 19. So section 1 here is franchise locations with AF coaching, right? So you look at all these and they have revenues in here, right? They don't have profits. And so this is the big part is like a broker, myself, consultant, coach, like I can speak to anything that's in this FDD, but I can't make assumptions. I can't say, well, their profit's got to be this. Like I don't do that. I can just speak to what is in this. And you can too. Like that's all you're going to know. So this is what I know. This is what the revenue is if you have AF coaching, right? Franchisees with AF coaching. I go to option 2 here, which is Anytime Fitness Centers franchise, Anytime Fitness Centers. They have a coaching dashboard in the operation of their centers. Same thing here, right? So you got average of all, median, the fourth quarter average, fourth quarter median, fourth quartile average, fourth quartile median, second, first, right? So this is the average right here, right? So you can look at this, and at the time too, I always look at the lower end as well, right? The third quartile, like why are they struggling, right? They're not doing too well. But you can also look lower, right? Like the first quartile, okay, here, like what's going on? You can ask these questions, right? But these are the average of all 215, and they got it broken up. They got it pretty evenly here. like I said, and these right here, this is a fun one. I think this is really cool. But this right here is revenue, expenses, and earnings for company-owned franchise locations, Anytime locations. So this is like Anytime Fitness owns these locations, so they reported profits and loss because, well, it's their locations and they can. Out of the 11 centers that they own, the average member count is there. The top third does the 4 centers, does 825 members. They have the middle third, 3, and the last 4. The bottom third, 4 centers have 520 members, right? And this is the number of percent of that are above it. So 3 of the 11 are above. So that's 27%. 2 of the 4, like I said, at or above 50. So you get the point there. And you can go through it just like a P&L. You go through and you can see it right here, right? So I always look at the lower end here. Like if you gotta, like for me, I always see like the average or lower end just to be conservative here and like know what I'm getting myself into. Like the high end's great if you're an operator and you know how to perform, like this will get you excited. But to be realistic and be like, all right, like let's just assume I'm not good at this, or let's just assume that like it's not gonna be perfect, right? What would the bottom third look like? Well, right here, this is net income before EBITDA, right? So, no, sorry, this is net income before manager salary. So maybe paying yourself or your manager, interest, taxes. Yep. So you go through here, and then this is after, right? So bottom third, 1 of 4 centers got this, right? So 1 of the 4, their median was here, right? The manager salary there. So their earnings was actually 80,000, right? And that was 1/4 of the studios. The median, like the average, actually of all the studios, came up to 73,000 bucks. So all 4 of the bottom third end up making 73, right? And I'd clarify this just as your franchisor to walk through it, right? Because like I said, maybe you're missing a piece of it. Maybe you have questions. Like this is very important. This is great information. Do not skip this. This is, if not, one of the most important parts of the FDD. Item 20 here, I think also going to be one of the most important pieces of information. Outlets and franchisee information. At first, this is going to show you like system-wide outlets, right? So this is, I'm assuming domestically because I know they have way more studios. So I think it's all domestic, but they have a net change. So I ask them, why are they having some closures here? Like in the 2023, they lost 20, 2024, 8, 2025, 19, right? Like ask them, why is that is? Is it because they're tapped out domestically, right? Is there changing something? Ask them, why are you guys closing some studios? Like, you know, it could be a concern, right? But they're a huge brand, so well established. And so ask them, like, what's going on there? Are you guys focusing on international right now? And so your domestic, you're not too worried about? Like, is international growth prioritized? What's your strategy as a company, right? Because maybe they're strategizing international growth. They're prioritizing international growth. And so, like, even though they're losing 20 here domestically, they can't report the international growth. So ask them, right? These are all right here, transfers of outlets from franchises to new owners. So you can look on a state-by-state basis. These are all just all the states and the transfers that are happening. Simple enough. Right here, status of franchise outlets for years, right? So right here, outlets at the end of the year. Okay, same thing. This is on a state-by-state basis. So Alaska, they got 2 Anytimes there, right? California, 130, 25, 136. It's a lot of Anytimes. Right, you can look on a state-by-state basis. In Illinois, it's got 86. Minnesota, right here, it's got 137. I mean, that's where it's out of, right? Parent company is out of, and Anytime Fitness is out of Minnesota. That makes sense why they got so many. Oh, Texas, 266, huge market, right? So you can go through that. That's pretty cool. I think that's really cool. Company-owned outlets, right? Projected openings. So this is cool. How many openings are they looking at? So right here, franchise agreement signed but not open. 21. 23 in Florida, right? Projected new franchise outlets in the next year, right? They got 9, 4 in Florida, right? So they got more coming. They're growing still domestically, it looks like. So maybe those numbers will be different in their 2026 FDD, right? Of next, when it comes out, sorry, 2027 FDD. That's what I mean, when it comes out next year. Super cool there. Like I said, same thing. You can look on a state-by-state basis. Now, this is super important for you on item 20, okay? This is, they have to put all their this is one of the most important parts because it's brand validation. Like you need to be able to talk to franchisees to ask them all the good questions and all bad questions. Like how much money are you actually making? How's the relationship with the franchisor? How's the support that they give you? Do you enjoy working with them? Would you do this again? That is a huge question. Would you open a franchise or with Anytime Fitness in general or with anyone again? When you're asking them, ask these franchisees that question. Would you do it again? If they say, yes, I do it again. I love it. I wish I could open more. Sign, you know you're into something good. But if they say I would not do it again, like it's not been great, right? Like hesitate, like, okay, let's dig deeper. Why? But like I said, if you call 5 people, 1 says I wouldn't do it again, but 4 say, yes, I would love to do more, then you're like, all right, maybe it's just that one guy's not a good fit, not a good operator, right? So you gotta weigh it. But this is where you find it. So like if you look at exhibits right here, Anytime Fitness, a list of all names, addresses, telephone numbers of all current Anytime Fitness franchisees, right? Exhibits 1, C1 and C2. And then right here in C3, it is a term outlet. All franchisees who had outlet terminated, canceled, not renewed. So what you can do here, this is great, is command to copy this, command F it, right? You're gonna get rid of exhibit. There you go. Exhibit C. Scroll down here, and these are all franchisees, you can call them. How cool is that, right? Like, and this is later in the process. I always say, like, before you go to like a Discover Day in person, like first you understand like this. I wouldn't call people before you like want to actually open like look into or sit down with the sales guy, the brand rep, just because understand the franchise first. Make sure you're a right fit. Make sure you actually enjoy it, and then call people so you know which questions to ask. Right? Don't just go in and start asking questions without digging in their FDD first. I always say talk to the sales rep, go through their process first, and then before you go to a Discover Day or like to the final steps, call some people. So that's item 20. Like I said, super, super important. I think this is the most important one, the most important item in the entire document, because this is real people, real franchisees that you can call and ask them the good, the bad, the ugly of their experience with the franchise. So that's most important. 21, financial statements, right? So this is how the brand is doing as a whole. Right? So right here, you can find this in Exhibit D. And so same thing, you copy, paste, go there. And this will tell you like the franchisor audited financial statements. So how's the brand doing? Financially, how's it doing? Is it really strong? Does it have great earnings? Or is it over leveraged? Or are they in crippling debt? Right? There's so many questions, so many things. So you can just go like this, Command F, same thing. Here, you get the point, Exhibit D, you go like that. And you can hit find, and then it will eventually come up, which, oops, I did that. But it'll eventually come up if I go, here we go, Exhibit D. And you can scroll down and see all these financial statements of the franchise, right? So super cool there. Let's go back to page 70 again. So yeah, 21, super cool, super important because it'll show you the, like I said, the franchisors and the brand's health financially. 22 is all contracts. So this is everything that you will sign if you want to become a franchisee. Pretty simple. You can read through that. 23 is the last 2 pages right here of the franchise disclosure document, as it says. And this just acknowledges that you have received the disclosure document, because when you get a document of FDD, when you get this big hunk of, paper, basically what they're going to do, right, is they are going to give it to you, and you have to wait 14 days before you can sign anything, right? Because that's just a law, right? It's the FTC, Federal Trade Commission, regulates that franchises have to wait 14 days before anyone can sign. And what that means, it allows you as a person, right, to look over everything and not be rushed. You have 2 weeks to look everything over. And at the end of the 2 weeks, you can sign this receipts page and very simply acknowledge that you have read the FDD thoroughly. This is not, by the way, this is very important. 23 does not bind you to the franchise. You do not have to sign any checks. It does not mean you are obligated to open a franchise. It just means that you have seen and acknowledged and read through the FDD. That's all it means. It's like, hey, I read it, I saw it, I'm acknowledging that I saw it and read it. There you go. And they're like, oh, thank you for that, right? So it just kind of helps and clear things up and makes it easier and builds a relationship and trust between you and the franchisor, right? And so now I'm going to tell you my most important items, okay, for this. Item 20, the franchise financial information and outlets, right? So any franchisees that are currently open or closed, that is my most important one. That is great. That is a super important number here, right? So that is, like I said, item 20. Number 2, I'd say, is other fees, right? This is ongoing fees from after you open your business. I think it's just super important because you're going to know, what am I paying monthly? What am I paying after I open to continue running this business, right? What are my royalties like? Is it 12% or is it 6%? Is it a flat fee? Like I noticed with this brand, if you look at their item 6, like that's their currently monthly fee. So like if I read that right, and what you can ask the franchisor, so let's just say my studio brings in 10,000 revenue per month, I pay this. And if it brings in 100,000 revenue per month, I still pay this. 842, it doesn't, like, it's not a percentage based. And they're like, yeah, that's great, right? Because that means you make more money, right? It's not, if it's 10%, that means if you make 10,000 bucks, right? You're going to pay $1,000 to the franchisor. But if you make 100,000 bucks, you're going to pay 10 grand to the franchisor. So like I said, that flat fee, that's pretty cool. Good to know there. All right, the third thing, item 7 that we mentioned earlier, the estimated initial investment. So that's how much it's going to cost to open all these bad boys, you think, right? That's the estimated initial investment. So if you're like, oh, I'm strapped for cash, maybe this isn't great. But if you're like, you know what, I want to do this, right? This is kind of like the loan, like how much money you got to put in. Simple enough, right? I think this is probably the third most important thing in the FDD, item 7. The fourth most important thing, I would say, is the item 19. Like I said, not all, like if a brand has this, it's great. If it doesn't, you can validate that with the item 20, right? The number 1. You can call franchisees and be like, hey, I just noticed there's no item 19 in the FDD. Can you be transparent and tell me how you're doing financially? And maybe they're like this, like you call 10 people and 6 of them say this is the best thing I've ever done. 3 of them say, you know what, this is okay, I'm making money. And 1 says I'll never do this again. you'd be like, all right, 6 said it was amazing, 3 said it was okay, and 1 said it was not good. That's probably a bad operator, so let's get rid of him. 3 said it was okay, 6 said it was amazing, I'd do it again. Like, all right, I think this is pretty good. And they'll maybe, and like I said, a lot of people just be transparent. They'll tell you how much the money they're making. Franchisees want other franchisees to win, because when everyone wins, like when they win and you win, the brand wins and the brand grows and there's more awareness. And it's just like I said, it's a snowball effect. Like when your fellow franchisee wins, you win because your brand just gets bigger and more people know about it, and it's just a network effect. So it's great. The fifth most important one, I'm going to scroll up here, I think would be, I'm just going to find here would be item 3 and item 4, right? Just because litigation, bankruptcy, are you guys being sued? Why are they being sued? Or are you suing people? Why are you suing people? That's important to know. And then bankruptcy, are you guys going under, or are you a growing brand? No problems there. Awesome, right? So if I had to rank everything, this is how we go. Number 1, outlets and franchise information. Franchisees, call them, validation. What's the good? What's the bad? What's the ugly? Tell me everything. Would you do it again? Number 2, what you have here is, of course, other fees. How much money am I going to pay to you throughout the course of owning this franchise, right? Is it royalty based? Is it flat fee per month? What's it like? How much is it? That's important to know. Number 7, initial investment. That's number 3, because how much money does this take to open one of these bad boys, right? Like, how much money do I actually need? You're going to need to know that, because if you don't have any money, you probably can't open one. But if you got a ton of money, like maybe I want to open a couple. Okay, super cool. Item 19, super important, because you can see how franchise units do, how like units do in the system, right? How people perform. But if it's not in there, like I said, it could be a red flag, but you can also validate that through number 20 by calling franchisees, right? So that's why I don't put it as higher than 4. And the 5th, I'll combine these two, is bankruptcy and litigation. Are they being sued? Are they bankrupt? Right? What's going on there? Like I said, all these questions are more things you can ask. But yeah, that's an FDD. Like I said, it's a thick boy, but when you understand it at its core, it's actually quite simple. And if you have any more questions about franchising, FDDs, or brands, what you can do is you can click the link below, go to runionfranchisegroup.com, schedule a free consultation with me, but I'll walk you through everything. We can go through brands, I'll go through FDDs, and learn together. But yeah, I appreciate you watching. And with that, have a great day. Like, comment, subscribe, and goodbye.